Hey guys, this is TutorMeMatlab. Sorry this video took so long, but I got caught up in schoolwork. In any case, last video I told you I was gonna teach you about input, and I will also teach you about if statements. Now, for the user to input a certain value, MATLAB has a built-in function, aptly named input, to take care of that. So, a really easy example is to ask the user what their name is and to display it back to them. So we can get started by creating a new variable. Let's call it name is equal to, and then we just call input. So input, we open parentheses, and it takes a message. So what do we want the user to see when we want them to put in their name? Well, we can just ask them, what is your name? Close the string and close the parentheses. Now, when I press enter, I will see the prompt, what is your name? Well, I'm just going to type in my name. My name is a string, so I'm going to do apostrophe, Juan, close apostrophe. When I press enter, then name will have the value Juan, what I put in. And now if we look in our workspace, name equals Juan. There it is. Name equals Juan. Alright. Sweet. So now let's use it in an M file. If you click here, we can open up a new M file, but I already have it over here. So what do we put at the top of our M file? Well, we put our name. We put the name of the file. I'm going to call it siblings. And what it does, asks user how many siblings she has, displays appropriate message. Alright, sweet. So let's get started. What is this program going to do? Well, it's going to first ask how many siblings the user has, and it's going to use an input function to record whatever answer they give. And then we're going to use that variable to check, okay, is the value negative? If it is, well, let's display, hey, you try to trick me, you can't have negative siblings. If the value is equal to 0, then we can display, oh, I see you're an only child. If the value is between, let's say, 0, no, let's call it 1 and 6, then let's display, oh, wow, you have X amount of siblings. And if it's anything greater than 6, then we're just going to display, wow, that's a lot of siblings. Alright, so first thing we want to do is ask the user. How do we do that? Well, same thing I did right here, right? So let's call it numSiblings, our variable. Our variable gets input, and our message is going to be, how many siblings do you have? If I spell it correctly. \n, close it. Alright, perfect. So after this line, any point past this line, numSiblings is going to have the value of whatever the user gave me. Alright, so we can do some calculations with it. Let's start with an if statement. Well, you haven't seen any of these, yet with me at least, so I'm going to assume that you've never seen them. We write the word if. The word if is going to be in blue because it's a keyword. Now, to the right of if is going to be a conditional statement. That means something that evaluates to true or false. Well, we're going to need characters like less than, equal to, not, ands, ors, things you'll pick up at some point if you're taking the class, and if not, I'll go through them briefly, but I suggest looking them up on your own. So we want to check if numSiblings is less than 0, then do something. Well, easy. We can just say if numSiblings is less than 0, and when I press enter, MATLAB is going to indent my line for me. You see how it's indented? That means that the following code will only be executed if numSiblings is less than 0. Alright, so if numSiblings is less than 0, I want to display, hey, you can't have negative siblings. Oh. Alright, I needed a double apostrophe here because if I do only one apostrophe, it's going to think it's the end of my message, because that's what I use to end messages. So if you actually want to use an apostrophe in your message, you just do double apostrophe. All right. Now, I need to check if something else is true, so I can do else if. Now, because this is no longer indented, that means that I can execute this code if this is not true. Now, I want to check another thing. If num siblings is equal to 0, then he's an only child. So else if num siblings equals 0. So in MATLAB, if you actually want to check if two things are equal, you do the double equal signs, because if you only do one equal signs, it's the assigning function. So like num siblings gets the value of input. But in this case, we want to check if it's equal to 0. So else if num siblings equals 0, then disp you're an only child. Okay. Else if, all right, so if he has one sibling, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but not more than 6, then I want to display a certain message. We can do this with the AND function. So if num siblings is greater than or equal to 1, and num siblings is less than or equal to 6, then let's do fprintf this time. You have placeholder for an integer, siblings, \n, and num siblings. If you're not familiar with disp and fprintf, I recommend you watch my last video where I talk all about those. So I'm going to placeholder for the number of siblings. Now else. Else is a little bit different than all of these because it doesn't have a condition statement. That means if neither of these are true, then I'm just going to display whatever's inside this else block. So else, then that would mean that num siblings has to be strictly greater than 6. So I'm going to display, wow, you have a lot of siblings. Okay? All right, end. So this is one whole if block. It has one if statement, several else ifs. You can have from 0 to infinite number of else ifs. And then the last one, if you want it there, has to be else. You can, if you choose not to have an else, that's fine. But else cannot be before anything else. That was a little bit confusing. In any case, so only one of these 4 things will execute. Either this will be true, in which case, if this is true, then it'll just skip to the end before even trying anything else. And if this is not true, and then this is true, then it'll do this and then skip everything else. Okay? Now, you can have another one if you wanted, another if statement. So if num siblings equals 100, then disp you have exactly 100 siblings. Okay? End. Now, for this if block, if end, we don't have any else ifs, and we don't have any else. And that works too. That's fine. This is the bare minimum you can have, just an if and an end. And then let's just, so that you guys can see, disp, this is the end of my code. All right, perfect. Let's save that. Siblings.m. And let's try to run it. So we go back to the command window, siblings.m, siblings by itself. So it asks me, how many siblings do you have? 3. You have 3 siblings because this was evaluated to true. And then this is the end of my code because this was not true. But if I say I have 100 siblings, then it's not gonna be any of these, none of these three things are true, it's going to go into the else statement, it's going to display this, and then it's going to end. And now it's going to go into a new if block. This is true, so it's going to disp this, which is right here, and then disp, this is the end of my code. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll be sure to have another video out pretty soon. I will probably talk about for loops and while loops. But thanks for watching, and